He wants to be bigger than FDR and Obama and Johnson. And that's all he cares about. Biden is a very dumb guy. He's an egomaniac. He's always wanted to be bigger than his capabilities. That's why he plagiarized as a young man. That's why he stole words from Robert Kennedy and Neil Kinnock when he was running. Back then, we actually had standards, so that knocked him out of the running for president.
Yeah, people don't know that. He plagiarized, and that actually got him to step down from the Democratic primary. Right. It's, I think, like 88 or so.
Today, it would be like, who cares?
Yeah.
So he's always been that way, but he's always been for Biden. And that's what you're seeing now.
There is something connected to belief that plays a role in all of this. I've sensed that with my liberal friends that come from a more purely secular position on this, that their underbelly is just too soft. It's too sort of, we accept everything, so yeah, we'll kind of go down the road to hell with you.
Whether you get it from faith or get it from somewhere else, if you don't believe in existential truths, and if you don't believe in, look, the Golden Rule, the Ten Commandments, is there a problem with the Golden Rule and the Ten Commandments? I don't think so. Well, those are the fundamentals, really. When you write them down, that's the fundamental. You look at the Declaration of Independence. The reason why that document is so incredible, these men, they knew about Judeo-Christian history. Many of them were practicing Christians. These men knew all about the Enlightenment, the Reformation. They studied it. They studied Aristotle and Cicero and you name it. They knew. They were well-educated men. And they put together this Declaration of Independence. They put everything on the line. Everything on the line. So look at that Declaration of Independence. Abraham Lincoln cited the Declaration over and over and over again during the Civil War. And one of the things he said, that a country's founders who could write such a document and leave it to their progeny to fix this issue of slavery were magnificent men. And Abraham Lincoln did more for black people than any other human being ever in the United States. Ever. Ever. He loved this country. He embraced the Constitution. He was disgusted by Taney, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, in his ruling in the Dred Scott case. But he always defended the Constitution, defended the founders, making the point, we wouldn't even be here as a country but for what these men did, flaws and all. And they told us, we can't fix this issue of slavery, but our children and grandchildren are going to have to. Because endowed with what? Endowed with our rights, unalienable rights that applies to every single human being on the face of the earth. You know, when Jefferson originally drafted the Declaration, there were 5 drafts, he put a provision in there that the British were forcing slavery on the colonies, which they were. They abolished slavery, but they were extremely active in the slave trade. They were making money off it. We had borders that were very porous. We couldn't really, and they kept moving slaves, selling slaves into the United States. And one of the things that Jefferson had said in there, even though he'd been a slave owner, he said this is one of the reasons, and some of the southern states blocked it. So, you know, something like that. They embraced the Declaration. They knew they couldn't resolve the slavery issue. They eventually did resolve the slavery issue, like no other country on the face of the earth. No other country had a civil war over slavery. We did. And when you listen to people today, it's as if none of this ever happened. But what I was going to say is this about Biden real fast. We can come back. I'm getting older, so my memory pops around.
You're doing just fine. You're doing fine.
Biden has always been a nasty piece of work. When he came into the Senate, he coddled up to James Eastland and John Stennis, 2 old Southern racist segregationists. Eastland was even a plantation owner who said the most horrific things about black people. Biden coddled up to these guys. Biden opposed busing. A lot of people opposed busing, including black people who didn't want their kids bused 25 miles in each direction. But Biden's language was different. he used the language of the racist. He talked about he didn't want his kids going into these jungles and so forth.
The racial jungle. That's what he said. Yeah.
The racial jungle. He would say the kinds of things that the racists would say. And then later he was tough on crime. I was the author of the crime bill, he used to say. Of course, he doesn't say it anymore. I don't have a big problem with that crime bill, by the way. Crime went way down, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Then he shifts his position because he sees that's not popular. And now, he wants to be bigger than FDR and Obama and Johnson. And that's all he cares about. Biden is a very dumb guy. He's an egomaniac. He's always wanted to be bigger than his capabilities. That's why he plagiarized as a young man. That's why he stole words from Robert Kennedy and Neil Kinnock when he was running. Back then, we actually had standards, so that knocked him out of the running for president.
Yeah, people don't know that. He plagiarized, and that actually got him to step down from the Democratic primary. Right. It's, I think, like 88 or so.
Today, it would be like, who cares?
Yeah.
So he's always been that way, but he's always been for Biden. And that's what you're seeing now. Biden didn't give any indication that he was going to be like to the left of Bernie Sanders. Every piece of radical legislation, radical executive order, radical policy that he can put in place, he's putting in place, bar none.
Yeah.
Bar none. I feel like we're getting hit in 1,000 directions here with this guy.
Right. Well,
that's
the
it's
bizarre
not really
thing.
Ideological. It is a personality flaw.
But do you think he's driving it at this point? That's the part that I can't figure out. It's like, I don't think he really believes in all of this stuff. I also think he has cognitive problems and a whole slew of other things. But it's like, this is what everyone asks me all the time. Well, who's the driver of all of this radical leftist stuff? It's obviously not 47 years in government Biden. Is it Obama? Like, who's behind the thing, do you think, at this point?
You know what? I think it's all that. I think he's hired. Look at his staff. Look at the people throughout the government. It's like pick the craziest bastard you possibly can for every one of these positions.
Yeah.
You want a guy at the Treasury overseeing the guns, then pick the biggest anti-gun guy. You want somebody looking at civil rights? Well, pick a woman who hates white people and goes on and on about white people and so forth.
Mark, we got a gay guy doing transportation. Come on. That's qualification enough, isn't it? Come on.
Look, there's two departments they always give the guys they don't care about: transportation and HUD. So I wouldn't. But here's the thing. I think he's told them who he wants to be and what he wants to do. I don't think he's there working in the weeds and all this stuff. I think they're giving him this stuff, and he's happy to sign it. I think he's there over legacy. He wants to create a legacy for himself, and he'll do almost anything to do it. And that's what he's doing. And he's also, by the way, we haven't touched on it, he's creating enormous dangers overseas. He's always been an incompetent when it comes to that and other things. He sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee, he sat on the Judiciary Committee, two of the important committees. And he's been so wrong so often that I am very worried that before he goes, we're going to be in some kind of war, if not with China, with Russia. I think Iran's going to have nuclear warheads. I think this world's going to be an absolute disaster and mess because of him and because of the people he's appointed. So this is a very serious time.
Indeed it is. All right, let's shift. I could actually just do history. Even getting away from politics, I could do history with you for hours. But
Happy to do.
Let's shift a little bit from some of this because I want to talk about the big tech portion of all of this because you've been very outspoken, but not only outspoken, you actually put your money where your mouth is in that you are not on Twitter anymore. You actually tweeted out, I'll read it for everybody, we'll put the tweet up. On January 8th, you wrote, "I have suspended my own Twitter account in protest against Twitter's fascism. I ask all my followers to join me now on Parler and Rumble." Obviously, a couple days later, Parler's servers were blown up. They are now back, at least on the App Store temporarily. But you're not happy about this. You are wary of centralized power, whether it comes from the government or from big tech.
I left Facebook and I left Twitter, but I spent 6 weeks telling everybody on Facebook and Twitter, I'm leaving the end of the year. Here's where you can find me. So I wasn't foolish enough to cut my throat and to do Facebook and Twitter favors until I was ready to do what I wanted to do.
Right.
So we have over 5 million followers on Parler now. We're starting to build up Rumble. We have what, 600,000 over there. I believe in entrepreneurship. I thank goodness, thank God that we have these other platforms that are willing to compete. I am not going to participate in the fascism that is being demonstrated by these oligarchs. I'm just not going to do it. They started giving me the scarlet letter over and over and over again. I go, what are you doing? Well, this third party, well, they pick the third parties, they're left-wing third parties, they're not. I said, you know what? I'm not going to participate in this. You're stealing the data from millions of people who follow me, and I'm telling millions of people to unfollow you. Now, some do and some don't, but they've come over to these other platforms. And I feel the position I'm in, I can help some of these other platforms. I'm not an investor in any of them, not that there be anything wrong with it, but I'm not. And I tell my folks, look, and this is what I was talking about when we opened the show. You got to put your money where your mouth is. We can't just talk about these things. I'm not opposed to other people staying on there because they need them and they want them and they want to build up everybody's, like I said, everybody has their own role. My role is, as I told you earlier, get the hell out of my face. You're gonna start giving me a scarlet letter every time you disagree with me. I'm done with you. It's that simple.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.